You can't leave the table until you've eaten all your food. Okay, Mom. Inspired by another post today, I'm going to share my sister. My mom always tried to make a point to ensure my siblings and I at least ate most of our food. I very rarely remember clear your plate being a rule in my house if it looked like we'd eaten a decent meal for our age. I'm sure all parents can relate to the occasional, whatever I got the kid to eat I'm going to call it a day moment. One day my sister, who was 3 at the time, decided she wasn't going to eat lunch and that our mom played games. My mom told her she had to sit at the dining room table until she ate her lunch. This child proceeded to sit there for the next 6 hours staring at this plate. She never once touched a thing on the plate and never made any attempts to leave the table. It was the first and only time I saw something come to a checkmate. My brother, to this day, refuses to eat pumpkin. Mom one day said that neither herself nor my brother would leave the table until he ate his pumpkin. Wasn't until Dad announced he was going to bed that Mom caved. And Mom never served him pumpkin again. At the age of 3, I refused to eat, due to the retch-inducing smell of the sauce. The baked beans on toast that my mom gave me for tea, and my father, in his wisdom, decided I was getting the same plate of food every meal until I ate it. Even though my mom made a fresh plate each meal, it was 3 days before my dad relented. The smell of baked beans still makes me hurl to this day. 50 years later. My dad's friend tried this on me. Summer between 5th and 6th grade, helping him move out of state with my brother. Have us a salad with lunch that includes mushrooms and tomatoes. I didn't like either of those foods and ate everything else. I was told I couldn't leave the table until I finished all my food. An hour later and I was told I still couldn't leave. I took a big bite of mushroom and chewed as quick as I could. But too late. Return to sender was activated and I threw up right back onto my plate, covering all the leftover food. Guess I won't try to make you eat food you don't like ever again. I never really forced my son or any kids under my care to eat. The only 2 rules are: you have to try one mouthful, not bite, because kids can take some minuscule bites if the food is something they're not excited to try. And how can you taste it if it's a tiny speck? If you don't eat a good portion of your meal, you don't get any treats. Nutrition first. You're not gonna say you're not hungry and then fill up on junk. That's about it. My son was always willing and excited to try new foods and has very few dislikes, and I think that's due to the fact that he knew he wouldn't be forced to continue eating it if he didn't like it. I know some kids have serious difficulties with food, or certain textures, etc. But other than that, this works really well for most kids in my experience. When I, an extremely fussy eater, was about 13, my aunt, a farmer's wife who made the same food for all, had a standoff like this. I didn't want stew. She was afraid I'd go home at the end of the summer skinny. I sat there from lunch until dinner when her returning husband, who had left when I was at the table, was now sitting down at the table for his next meal, told me to get out. She didn't try to force me to eat when I didn't want to again. One decent thing my mom did was only making us eat it all if we served ourselves. But once she sewed a dress for my sister and my sister hated it. She refused to wear it. For some reason, Mom busted out that there are starving kids in China. Gem. Sister replied, "Let them eat it." I was raised the same. Did this with dinner more than once. My mom made weird stews and I was a small eater. Mom put the food on your plate and you had to finish all of it to leave the table. Stayed up past my bedtime several times because I refused to finish the food. I did this as a child when my mom prepared liver, onions, and bacon. I have always been one who cannot even stand the smell of liver cooking. I just turns my stomach and I cannot even stand to look at a plate full of liver. I sat at the table all through dinner, while Mom cleaned the kitchen, and until it was bedtime and Mom told me to go to bed and that the liver would be there for breakfast in the morning. I sat at the table the next morning until time to walk to school. I told Mom that I would never eat liver, and after the hours of sitting at the table I think she finally understood that I would outweight her on that food item. I still cannot stand the smell of liver or anything like it being cooked. I'm sure there's plenty of parents who would see this as a win actually. Did that as a kid. My mom wouldn't let me leave till I ate the pickled cabbage on the plate. Sat there until it was time to go to sleep. I love pickled cabbage as an adult, and she once told me that she always regretted that incident. The food was 6 hours old. I wouldn't call it checkmate, more like stalemate. This exact thing happened not just with my sister but my brother as well. There were 4 of us, but only the oldest 3, me included, were expected to completely clear our plates. I would wolf food and be back outside far before the other 2. They often took a while to come outside. Well, we all became adults and this topic came up. Apparently, one of those days, my brother and sister had it and refused to eat. They sat there for the entire night, would not touch the green beans in solidarity. My mother eventually sent them to bed. After that, they weren't forced to clear the whole plate anymore though, but my mother still enforced this rule. With me, I was completely unaware it even happened. My dad was like the mother, but he would get impatient with me after a while. To me it felt like 23 hours. But it wouldn't surprise me if it was less time. His impatience meant he would start spanking me until I complied. Really difficult to choke found food that makes you throw up when the alternative is pain that won't stop. Cannot tell you how many false confessions and false apologies were also goaded from me by him in this manner. Folks and I have had no contact for 3.5 years. Thank God. I think that clean your plate thing almost turned into an eating disorder for me. I didn't learn what it meant to have had enough to eat because all the food portions were chosen for me. Also, I thought I was being altruistic by eating everything I was given. Since Mom would say, "Finish your dinner, there are starving children in China." In my dumb head that meant they wouldn't starve if I ate all the food. Made no sense. But if all you say is, "Eat, people are starving," then kids will try to make sense out of what you're saying and might come up with something goofy that you never intended. My parents did this with me when I was 5. I sat there until I fell asleep with my face in the food. My physics's dad never forced him like this. His dad always taught him to try taking just what he needed. It's okay to go back for more. His dad never kept treats, sweets, or snacks in the house. So if he didn't like something, he was welcome to get just about anything else. To this day, fiancé only struggles with his weight if he is under enormous and/or prolonged stress. However, if he can routinely kickbox and/or hike, he is lean and healthy. When I was younger, maybe 9, 10, my parents would force me to eat those gross-ass fish fillets that came in the yellow box. They were slimy, tasted like rotten fish, smelled, and personally they never cooked them right. I sat at the table for 12 hours from 6 p.m. dinner time until damn near 8 a.m. the next morning. Fell asleep in school couple times because of it. Dad would smack me on the back of my head if he caught me sleeping. Yep. I lived in a household where it wasn't "finish your plate," but "get your own portion, and if you don't finish it, you have to eat it for the next meal." As an adult, seems totally fair, and I still pretty much do this in my 30s, haha. Wife and I both dealt with that BS growing up. Never again. Kids have to try a bite of something. If they don't like it, fine, don't eat it. Not getting any dessert cause they're still hungry. But they were free to have a PB&J instead of the family meal. For my mother, if we didn't finish, no dessert. You're not hungry enough to finish dinner. Then you're too full for dessert.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.